Now, Skyblock is a very grindy game, I'm sure we all know. And if you aren't open to grind repetitive tasks, then Skyblock is just probably not for you, in the most part. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't enjoy certain grinds more than others. But what makes a certain grind actually fun and entertaining? The prospect of unlocking rewards that you can then use as you progress further through the grind. The prospect of RNG drops along the way. Engagement. If there's money to be made along the way. The list goes on and on and on. That means that the worst and most painful grinds that are boring lack, if not one, maybe multiple or all of these different aspects. Today I thought it'd be interesting if we took a look at the worst and most painful grinds in Skyblock and kind of explore a bit as to why they're so bad. Like I mentioned before, if you play Skyblock, you're probably open to grinding the game, so if these grinds are bad by Skyblock players' standards, then these grinds are pretty bad. Now first of all, I'm going to state the obvious, something that's pretty much at the top of everybody's list, and that's Foraging. For a player that might have not played much Skyblock and maybe is a relatively low Foraging level, you might not think it's that bad, but as soon as you hit that sort of wall at around about level 20 to 25, you'll see just how bad it really is, how little progression there is, and how long it really takes to level up. Not to mention the simple monotony of simply just chopping logs and nothing else at all. Through your foraging journey, you'll just have simply two upgrades to your axe. You have the jungle axe, and then the tree capitator. That's as far as it goes. In the tree capitator is now gemstone slots, which there never used to be. And in those gemstone slots you can put citrine gemstones, which were relatively recently added with the glacial tunnels. These gemstones give you foraging fortune, which is actually pretty interesting considering the only thing you're concerned about when foraging is simply your wisdom and how fast you gain XP. Foraging makes next to no money, if you're lucky maybe 1,000,000 coins an hour, and with these perfect citrines maybe you'll make 1.1. Maybe you can make a little bit more, but it won't be more than 2 mil. It's bad for money. But other than the fact that there's very little progression, there's, well, no armor set that you can use that buffs you in foraging in any way whatsoever. It's pretty damn dull. You just simply chop logs, nothing happens, you know? There's no foraging events, there's no foraging mobs, and it takes an absolute ton of time to get to foraging 50, which is the maximum skill level. Now, of course, we're waiting on a foraging update, and we've been waiting on it for a while, so I don't really see the point in talking about it. The foraging 50 grind is absolutely horrendous. Someone who's grinded foraging myself, I thought it would have gone way quicker. I did a period about a year and a half ago where I grinded 24 hours for a week straight, and I got barely anywhere. When I say 24 hours for a week straight, I mean 24 hours over the period of a week. And then later I actually grinded 24 hours straight of foraging on this island, and it was not good. All of that got me to foraging level 38, which is not even halfway to 50. You need to get to foraging 42 for you to be at half the XP from 0 to basically full, which is absolutely depressing. If you live in the UK, foraging is the Skyblock equivalent of being told you're going on a holiday and ending up in Blackpool. Dull, dismal, and not really much to do. Most players, however, who have actually ground to foraging 50 don't even forage on the foraging island. They forage on the private island because they can basically rig up contraptions that make it quicker than foraging on the foraging island. Now that just shows how bad the situation is. In my opinion, it's got to be one of the worst grinds in Skyblock. Everyone has their own opinion, but for me, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's not difficult. It's just very, 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 very dull and boring, and that's pretty much it. Just before we go any further, at the moment we're trying to beat the population of Andorra with subscribers. The population of Andorra is around about 80,000 people, and when we reach 80,000 subscribers we're going to be visiting Andorra and we'll be able to claim that we have more subscribers than the population of the whole country, which would be pretty cool, so make sure to subscribe to make that happen. Also, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITROS, it gets yourself 5% off. You should join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of this video. We offer slayers and dungeon carries, so if you need carries or want to carry and make some coins, make sure to join. Now we'll move on to another skill, a skill so bad it doesn't even count towards your skill average. Social. What even is this? The social skill is as follows: gain social XP for every new unique guest, hosting guests and visiting islands. It's the only way you gain social XP. Leveling up your social level will basically unlock new things that you can put on your island to, I guess, either show off, or in some cases maybe entice people to visit your island to gain more social XP. Now, Christopher showcases some of the most visited islands, which are usually the islands of YouTubers, museums, or kind of hub portals. Thinking about it, it's a good job that it's not really included in the skill average. Then again, there's not really any proper reward for having social 25. It's a strange one. How about fishing? Not all of fishing, just one particular aspect of fishing. It's not as extreme as other grinds, however, let me tell you, it's boring. Now, fishing is a skill that initially I never used to like, but I've grown to enjoy. And truth be told, anything past fishing 27 all the way up to 50 is actually quite enjoyable. There's quite a lot of progression, there's opportunities to make money, drop RNGs and so on. But that grind to fishing 27 is not the one. You see, fishing 27 is the level that basically you start to unlock lava fishing gear. And without lava fishing gear, you have to water fish. And if you aren't able to make any events, such as maybe Marina, or the Spooky event, or the Jerry event, you know, winter fishing, then it's very, very slow, very boring. There's not really much you can drop at all. And it kind of puts a lot of people off from actually getting into fishing. Now, the contrary is that if you're not really in a massive rush, you can just put minions down and wait a while. It doesn't really deserve me to talk too much about it, but that grind is annoying. How about dungeons? Within dungeons, there's a lot of painful grinds. Let's take a look. First of all, I want to talk about, well, what if you're an Ironman player? What are some of the worst dungeon grinds if you're an Ironman player? Well, in short, if you've got bad RNG, probably all of them. I guess the main one probably being getting a scrolled Hyperion. Not only do you have to drop, well, the Necron's Handle, then you've got to drop 24 with a Catalyst, which can be kind of annoying, but not the worst. Then you've got to drop all 3 scrolls along with that Necron's Handle. Now, a lot of the time it's hard enough to just drop one of these, so to drop all 4 individually without getting any duplicates is pretty difficult. The odds are you probably will get duplicates. So this is a horrible, horrible grind. Well, unless you have ridiculously lucky RNG. But let's throw the Iron Man idea out of the window. What is so bad about the dungeons grind? Well, as somebody who doesn't really like dungeons in general, I'm probably going to be a little bit biased because I just don't enjoy doing dungeons, so not really anything is appealing to me. But first of all, to me, what seems like a terrible grind is Catacombs 50. Now, I feel like I've done a lot of dungeons in my time, and I know I haven't in comparison to most people, but I'm only Catacombs 37. On my other profile at the moment, I think I'm about Cata 20, and to get from 20 to 24, that means that I need to do 50 floor 6 runs. That seems like a terrible amount of floor 6s to do. Just to even get to Cata 24 and to be able to use some of those items that kind of spur you on. Now, you know, when you get to Catacombs 50, that doesn't mean that all of your classes are level 50. You see, I'm Cata 37, and let's see, Healer 30, Mage 33, Berserk 33, Archer 32, and Tank 30. Majority of the classes that I've used have been Mage and also Archer. Probably Berserk to an extent too, but I'm nowhere near the same Cata level as I am class level. Which means once you get to Cata 50, there's a considerable amount of grinding that you need to do to get all these class averages up to 50. And of course, each class average level gains you some Skyblock XP. So if you want to get to max Skyblock XP, you have to grind it out to get all of these class levels to level 50, which means at some point, really for optimal leveling, you're going to have to play all of these classes too. So I'm here saying getting to Cata 24 is a bit of an annoying grind, getting to Cata 50 is even worse, but getting to class average 50 is it's just an incomprehensible sort of amount of dungeons that you'd have to do. So to anyone that has done this, I can only say GG's, because that takes some dedication. It doesn't stop there though. So the maximum boss collection for each dungeon floor is 1,000. Now of course you get Skyblock XP for every sort of milestone, and then you also unlock different things. If you want every single diamond head for every floor, that means that you have to get 1,000 runs in every single one of these floors. Now of course if you do master mode, you know that counts for multiple runs. However, this is a huge grind to undertake. So completing dungeons in a sense of getting max boss collections for every single boss and also getting class average 50 is, yeah, probably up there with the worst. And before, when I said that Foraging is probably the worst, actually come to think of it, it doesn't take anywhere near as long or as much effort as this would. But then again, Foraging is incredibly boring, and obviously I'm sure you get bored of doing the same dungeon floor over and over again, but at least it's a little bit more engaging. How about max Beastiary? A Beastiary is simply a measure of how much of a certain individual mob that you've killed. That builds up and forms what is your Beastiary milestone, which is basically a measure of how much you've explored the game. How much of each mob you've killed all the way through every part of Skyblock. And if you want max Skyblock XP, you're going to have to get a max Beastiary because, well, every Beastiary milestone you're going to get 10 Skyblock XP. Oh, well, should I say every other milestone. I feel like I'm relatively well travelled in Skyblock. Obviously, of course, not on the scale of anyone else, you know, the higher level people, but at the end of the day, like, I've played Skyblock for quite a while and I've made a decent amount of progression, and I'm absolutely nowhere near max Beastiary, and I feel like I've at least killed one of each mob. Now, of course, maxing a Beastiary doesn't involve killing one of each mob. Some of these Beastiaries involve you killing tens of thousands of each mob. You know, within each kind of event or realm of Skyblock, you've then got a mob, and then you've got different milestones as to how many you've killed. For instance, for Yogs, to max the actual Beastiary out, you need 4,000 kills, which initially doesn't seem like that many, but you know, if you're just grinding Yogs, that can kind of add up. That'll take a while. And to put it into perspective, you gotta do this for every single mob in the game. Foraging is kind of starting to look like a bit of a walk in the park. You get it? Because walking in the park? I don't know. I feel like we have to talk about the chocolate factory. Hobbit's collection is straight up RNG. To obtain every single rabbit is a massive, massive ask, especially to obtain these divine rabbits. Now the interesting thing is every other type of RNG in the game has some sort of RNG meter, or it has a pity system. Like trophy fishing has a pity system. You know, dropping things in dungeons, you know, dropping things in slayers has an RNG system. Even Nucleus runs has an RNG system. Now, there's no sort of pity, there's no RNG system, and I know it's not the same, it's different. And sure, if you upgrade your Hitman, that's going to help quite a lot. But you're just at the mercy of luck and RNG, and that's simply it, which is pretty scary. I feel like it'd be rude not to mention trophy fishing. Now, every time you fish up a new tier of trophy fish that you haven't fished before gives you Skyblock XP, so once again, if you want more Skyblock XP, you're going to have to trophy fish to the maximum. You're going to need to get a diamond in everything. There is a pity system involved, however, this is just incredibly, incredibly slow. There's 18 different trophy fishes, which means that you need 18 unique diamonds, which is actually quite crazy. Now, what makes trophy fishing kind of so painful is the fact that all you're doing is fishing for these trophy fish over and over again. And if you're trophy fishing and you have the trophy fishing gear, number one, you would have invested a lot of money into that gear. And number two, you're just simply fishing up trophy fish. There's not really much else that happens, meaning that it's quite boring. You know, fishing in itself is relatively boring in my opinion. Trophy fishing is even more boring because there's no curveball. There's not really much else that happens other than simply fishing stuff up, which is just trophy fish. So to those people with Diamond Trophy Hunter, you know what? I don't know how you've done it, because I think I would have given up a lot earlier. It is quite a grueling grind, so fair enough if you've done it, that's kind of crazy. Now, I mentioned Ironman before, and it is true, pretty much everything becomes more difficult when you actually play on an Ironman profile. However, you have the choice to play on an Ironman profile, here's the thing. So, it's okay to complain about bad RNG and how long things are taking when you're on Ironman, but you've always got to remember, this is out of choice. But other than getting a fully scrolled Hyperion, another notably, you know, very difficult and RNG related thing to drop on Ironman is an Ender Dragon pet. Some people spend the equivalent of billions and billions of coins, hundreds and hundreds of hours, and simply don't get an Ender Dragon pet. You know who you are? But it's not just one person, of course, this is pretty common. You know, some people do one dragon and get an E-Drag pet, and other people go hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dragons and don't seem to get anything to show. There definitely should be some sort of pity or RNG meter system implemented into dragons. I'm not sure why there isn't. I mean, they've done it with Crystal Nucleus and they've done it with most other RNG related things. But at the moment, it is, yeah, pretty painful. If you get unlucky, that is. On the other hand, if you get lucky, it's not. So it's a bit of a 50-50 situation. Now, I think something else to mention is crop milestones in the garden. Every time you go up a crop milestone, you get a Skyblock XP. So if you're going for max Skyblock XP, you're going to have to do this grind. And it's just a huge amount of farming. What I will say is it's not as bad as other like grinds, because you are going to make a decent amount of money at the same time. If you've got a good farming setup, then you'll make somewhat decent, acceptable money. At the same time, it is a huge amount of farming, and it's pretty boring, and of course very repetitive. Also, powder grinding is very, very boring and repetitive once again. This is a bit of a theme. I mean, it's a grindy game, but this is pretty boring. You need powder to be able to mine, pretty much. Full stop. No matter what you do at any section in the game, as long as you're relatively progressed, it's going to require you to have at least some powder, if not a lot. And to get powder, the best way to do it is simply mine through hardstone in the crystal hollows and open chests. Now, of course, the more powder you have, the more upgrades you have, the more efficient it becomes, the better gear you can get, the more efficient it becomes again. It's just really boring and dull. Now, I'm sure there is a lot more painful grinds. I mean, painful is kind of subjective. I guess if you don't like doing something, it becomes painful, and other people might enjoy doing it, so it isn't painful, and it isn't, you know, just horrible to grind. You may really enjoy foraging, and it might be your favourite skill. It's for very, very few people, though. Anyway, that's going to be the end of today's video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.